You pick Cursor for a big refactor, the agent stalls out, and you realize Claude Code on the same Claude Opus 5 engine would have finished it clean. Claude Opus 5 is the raw model, Claude Code is the agentic harness, Cursor is the IDE wrapper. The question is which one actually ships your code. Alright, so test 1, cost. If you're hitting Claude Opus 5's API hard, say 1 million input tokens in a day, you're looking at $5 just for input, and output tokens run $25 per million on top of that. That bill compounds fast. Claude Code and Cursor both charge a flat monthly rate, so the real question is whether pay-as-you-go is a trap or a feature for your workflow. I went through the official pricing pages for all three. Claude Opus 5 API is $5 per million input tokens, $25 per million output. Pay-as-you-go, no subscription. Claude Code is bundled into the Pro plan, so heavy use doesn't spike your bill. Cursor runs the same flat monthly rate, but that's a separate line item from Claude Code. The on-screen cards say it plainly. One flat rate beats a metered tab for most devs. If you're building with the agentic harness and coding hard every day, Claude Code takes cost because a flat monthly rate beats a token meter that runs away from you, and Cursor's subscription is a separate line item on top if you want both. That puts Claude Code on the board first, Opus 5, and Cursor still at 0. I know that cost trap because I've spent enough time in these tools to watch an API bill double a budget overnight. Drop a comment if a token meter has ever caught you off guard. Okay, so test 2, coding benchmark performance. The objection I hear a lot is that Cursor runs Claude Opus 5 too, so how different can the scores really be? Well, SWE Bench verified is the closest thing we have to a real measure of whether an agent can actually close a GitHub issue, and a 14-point gap on that benchmark is the difference between shipping a fix and shipping a bug. When I dug into the numbers, here's what I found. Claude Opus 5 scores 82.3% on SWE Bench verified officially, and Claude Code inherits that exact score because it's the same model in a different harness. Cursor's agent mode lands at 68.4%, but that figure is community reported from a single blog source, not an official Anthropic number, so treat it as directional. The on-screen bar chart shows the gap clearly. If you're building anything where the agent needs to close real issues reliably, Claude Opus 5 and Claude Code share the top score on SWE Bench verified, and Cursor trails by about 14 points in the same benchmark. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. That ties Opus 5 and Claude Code at 1 win each, Cursor still at 0. Now, test 3, speed. The day your coding agent feels slow is the day you stop trusting it. If you're in a tight loop, waiting on generation kills your flow, and 100 tokens per second versus a 150 millisecond autocomplete ping are two very different things. One is raw output throughput, the other is tab complete latency, and mixing them up will give you the wrong answer about which tool actually feels fast. I had to go through the docs twice to make sure I was comparing the right things. Claude Opus 5 puts out up to 100 tokens per second. That's the official published figure, and Claude Code inherits that speed, plus a fast mode that cuts latency up to 50% for common tasks. Cursor's headline speed number is a 150 millioners tab autocomplete latency, which is a completely different metric from generation throughput, so the on-screen cards are measuring different jobs. If you're building for interactive coding loops, Claude Opus 5 takes speed on raw throughput at 100 toks, and Claude Code's fast mode makes that practical for daily use, while Cursor's 150 millimeters metric is really about autocomplete, not generation. Opus 5 moves to 2 wins, Claude Code holds at 1, Cursor still at 0. So right now, Opus 5 is ahead, But we still have context limits and deployment reach to go, and those two dimensions could completely change which tool actually fits your stack. If you're on a cloud platform or need to pass an image into your coding agent, the next results matter a lot more than the score so far suggests. Test 4, context and output limits. And this is a real failure mode I've seen. You paste in a big codebase, your agent hits the context ceiling mid-task, loses track of earlier files, and starts hallucinating function names that don't exist. The question is whether Claude Opus 5, Claude Code, or Cursor gives you more room before that happens, because 200,000 tokens sounds like a lot until your monorepo says otherwise. The part that got me here is that all three tools land at the exact same ceiling, 200k context window and 64k max output tokens when running Opus 5. Claude Opus 5 and Claude Code have that officially documented. Cursor's context window is model dependent, so if you switch models inside Cursor, you might get less. But with Opus 5 loaded, it matches the same 200k. The on-screen cards show identical numbers across the board. The caveat here is that Cursor's 200k is model dependent, so the moment you swap to a smaller model inside Cursor, that window shrinks and you might not notice until your agent starts losing context. The decisive call is still the same. The underlying model sets the ceiling for all three, but Cursor gives you less control over which model is actually running. Context and output limits is a genuine tie. All three hit 200k and 64k when running Opus 5, and no product stretches beyond what the model itself allows. Score stays at Opus 5 2, Claude Code 1, Cursor 0 with 1 tied. Test 5, deployment and modality. Say your team is on AWS. You need to run your coding agent through Amazon Bedrock for compliance, and you drop a screenshot of a UI bug into your prompt because you want the model to look at it. That's two requirements right there, cloud deployment and image input, and only one of these three tools can actually handle both. I went through the official docs for all three. Claude Opus 5 runs via API, Amazon Bedrock, and Google Vertex AI, and it's the only one of the three that accepts image input alongside text. Claude Code is a CLI tool, local or cloud, but text only. Cursor is a desktop IDE and VS Code extension, also text only. The on-screen deployment cards make it pretty obvious. Opus 5 is the only one that travels across cloud platforms and handles multimodal input. If you're building on cloud infrastructure or need image input in your coding workflow, Claude Opus 5 takes deployment and modality clean, because it's the only one with Bedrock, Vertex, and multimodal support built in. That moves Opus 5 to 3 wins, Claude Code at 1, Cursor still at 0, 1 tied. Claude Opus 5 wins on raw benchmark performance, output speed at 100 tokens per second, and deployment reach across API, Amazon Bedrock, and Google Vertex AI. It's also the only one that takes image input, so if your coding workflow includes UI screenshots or diagrams, Opus 5 is the only tool that can actually process them. Claude Code wins on cost, full stop. It's bundled into the Pro plan, so you get Opus 5's top SWE bench performance in a terminal-first agentic harness without a separate per token bill. The fast mode cuts interactive latency up to 50%, and the CLI design is genuinely built for cloud and terminal-native workflows, where a desktop IDE would just be in the way. Cursor wins on accessibility for developers who live in VS Code. If your entire workflow is inside an IDE, the tab autocomplete at 150 meters and the native VS Code extension integration are genuinely smoother than switching to a terminal or calling an API. It's the lowest friction entry point if you want AI-assisted coding without leaving your editor. If you need the strongest raw model with cloud deployment and image input, Claude Opus 5 is the pick. If you're on the Pro plan and want that same top SWE bench engine in a terminal harness without a token meter, Claude Code is the default. And if you live in VS Code and just want something that works without a terminal, Cursor gets you there. One bill, one model, one decision. The one thing that doesn't show up in the docs, Cursor's agent mode 68.4%. SWE bench figure comes from a single community blog post, not an official Anthropic or Cursor benchmark. The same Claude Opus 5 model in Claude Code's harness scores 82.3% officially. The harness isn't cosmetic, it changes the actual score. If you want to see how Claude Opus 5 stacks up against other frontier models on reasoning, I ran that exact comparison in the video called Claude Opus 5 versus Grok 4.5 versus DeepSeek v4. which reasons better, and the results were honestly not what I expected. That one's queued up for you right now.